us a little bit about the. Oh, that's right. Thank you very much. We are recording this this session. I was asked to do that, and I forgot. So thank you, Deborah, as well. There's thank yous all over the place here, but thank you, Deborah, as well for making for putting this all together, getting all of the information that we needed over to the councilman and to Christina, and just making it as simple and easy as possible. We are the great thank you. We are the Greater East Dallas Chamber of Commerce. This is the Legislative and Economic Growth Committee. We meet on the last Friday of each month at 8:30, and so this one's a little bit different, but we are a great group. We've got a lot of different committees. We serve the East Dallas area very, very, very well, and you are certainly touching our East Dallas area. And so we're, again, grateful to have you here. As District 7 Councilman, in looking at the map, you've got some pretty good gerrymandering going on there, but you've got a good old section here, Fair Park, White Rock Hills, Buckner Terrace, Dolphin Heights, South Dallas, Wheatley Place, among others. And just a little introduction to the councilman. I love this part, the youngest person ever to serve on the council. That's pretty impressive. So congratulations on that. Elected June 2019, husband, dad, teacher, advocate, a lot of awesome things here. He's focused on the need for neighborhood safety improvements, solving homeless population issues. And certainly, as any good councilman, right, we're looking to attract those local businesses, just like we are here at the chamber. So we certainly share that together, and you're serving your constituents and your neighborhood's needs. We are also, as a chamber, trying to do the same. So thank you very much for being a dedicated advocate for economic growth. As you know, again, we're economic growth and legislative issues on this committee. So we've got a lot of things in common here. If you would take a couple of minutes and just kind of free flow for us and tell us a little bit about what's going on. I'm sure you're going to touch on a lot of the subjects and questions that I've had presented to you and Christina. And as you do, I'll just grab my little highlighter and kind of go over those so that we don't kind of have to be so redundant. But certainly we do appreciate your time, and thanks again.
Absolutely. And thank you for sending the questions in advance. That always helps to make sure that I can get you guys the answers that you need. I first want to start off by saying thank you, Renee, for setting this up and for the communication that you had with my office. Christina is a rock star. I was lucky enough to get her to come over to City Hall with me from Dallas ISD. She was the assistant to my favorite principal that I worked for as a teacher. And she was with the district for 25 years and is now serving the city in District 7. So really excited to have her. Thank you to all of you all for not only being here today, but for all of the work that y'all do day in and day out to help promote and recruit and be a resource to small businesses. Now coming out of this, well, I don't even know if we can say coming out of, but going to the tail end of this pandemic, we know just how important any resource that exists for small business owners to have, and your contribution to our city and to the East Dallas community is invaluable. So thank you all. I am very excited to be back for a second term with District 7, what I would consider to be the best district in the city. A little biased, but the reason why is because when you say gerrymandering, yes, you're absolutely right. You know, I often say that my district contains two different constituencies, really almost two worlds of Dallas in one district line. So the needs vary from the southern part of District 7 to the northeast part of District 7. And but a lot of those, despite all of those differences, we have a lot of commonalities and goals. And everyone wants safer streets for their kids and their families. Everyone wants to see better retail, better quality businesses, less vacancies, less blight. And so we kind of have a lot of commonalities that exist that I've tried to pull in together to see how we can attack these and have participation from one end of the district to the other, just even if the issue isn't for their particular neighborhood. We've succeeded so far at that goal and bringing a cohesiveness to District 7. Some of the things that I'm most excited about right now is the homeless initiative that we have, the real-time rapid rehousing and partnership with the county, with mental health providers, with several different municipalities who have essentially gifted the city of Dallas their vouchers that were given to them at the federal level, and allowed us to bring in this very comprehensive plan that is slated to afford us to house 2,700 unsheltered individuals over the next 2 years, and an additional 600 in that third year with how we have the plan laid out. Currently, with our point in time count of homelessness, we have the ability to eradicate 80 to 90% of those unsheltered individuals in our city. So this is one of the most aggressive approaches that any city across the country has taken, honestly, with the amount that we are investing in. It's by far the biggest initiative that the city of Dallas has put in. And it is a comprehensive approach that's not just housing first. One thing that I've tried to preach since being on council is I'm all about housing first model. But if you get close with homelessness, you realize that there are two really focal points that have to be addressed. And housing first will only address those that are not resistant. We have so much vagrancy that are resistant to resources, that struggle and suffer from addiction and mental health. And if we're not going to attack the vagrancy and mental health aspect of homelessness, then we're really just putting a Band-Aid on an issue that needs surgery. And so I'm excited to see us take this holistic approach to address both sides. With this fiscal year's budget that we passed, we have 98 social workers that are contracted in as a part of this partnership that will now be coupled with the encampment cleanups. The encampment cleanups are going to be much more than what they were. In my opinion, we weren't spending money to eradicate homelessness in the past. We were really spending money to appease NIMBY. And when we go and clean up an encampment and have no plan for where those that resist services are going to go, or start a case with them, bringing in more than just a number. And instead of a number of how many people accepted and didn't, now we're going to be opening up cases with each individual and starting that trust building and relationship with social work, and start finding how we can furnish the needs that exist out there individually, which is going to be a game changer for our city. In addition to that, public safety. I know that y'all probably have seen, I have, because you all are very engaged. I've been in the news quite a bit when it comes to my opinion on public safety. And I'm happy to see it kind of flatten out. We went through a very rough past year. This rough past year not only was, of course, the height of a pandemic. We had the winter storm, that was very impactful on our communities. But in addition to that, we had this overlying political climate that really drove the train on any narrative that we could have at a local level to do things that need to be done. I know that there was a big talk about defunding the police, and there was a lot of misconstruing there. This year, we funded police in a very substantial way. We went back to the full-size classes for our academy from the half that was that we were bound to because of COVID restrictions, which means we look to hire 500 officers in the next 2 fiscal years, which is what we've now budgeted. But in addition to that, not only did last year in the fiscal year budget, we had $32 million allocated to outside of law enforcement response. We increased our right care team, which is for mental health. It was the first place that the city of Dallas invested in mental health, but it was all attached to a criminal element. So I'm happy to see that we've now brought in resources that aren't just reactive to 911 calls. However, the expansion of right care has given us now with this implementation, this fiscal year's implementation, the ability to take all of DPD's call volume, the entire load of mental health calls to this right care team, which does still have an officer, and our dispatch team is trained to know whether or not it's an appropriate scenario to send out this right care team versus law enforcement if there are any threats that have been posed, or make sure that everyone is safe. But that has been proven to not only free up time with DPD, but also to help the individuals that we're responding to. Most officers will tell you they can only do what they're trained to do, and they're not mental health specialists. So really excited to see that. In addition to that, we put in another $1.5 million with an amendment that I put forward this year in the budget to increase our lighting and blighting initiative. And it's using targeted areas where crime exists most that are also correlating to the darkest areas. So really cross-referencing data from different departments, and with Chief Garcia's crime plan and their target locations kind of being integrated into this, we've targeted certain areas in South Dallas specifically that, because of this lighting initiative, we've seen crime decrease upwards of 45% in certain target areas, like along Malcolm X, for example. So really excited to see us taking this out of the box approach, in addition to still giving the police department the support that they need and the resources they need. But a lot of these innovative ideas and implementations have really helped overall in public safety.
Can I interrupt right there, Ruth?
Yep, absolutely.
The cameras as well. Was that any camera initiative as well as part of the lighting?
So the camera initiative is something that we have a Starlight program that is a partnership with certain businesses, right? That has shown, we are renewing that has shown to be successful in very micro-targeted areas. What I will say that cameras act really well as a deterrent. When we put them up in like parking lots that have been an issue, or places that we know donuts and things like that exist, it works as a deterrent, and it works temporarily. The problem that we have is right now we don't have the luxury to focus our hiring efforts for our fusion center, which we're going to require a lot more manpower if we're going to really big brother our city, if you get what I'm saying. So right now the focus in bringing in heads to the department have really been trying to free up the patrol. Another amendment
that and the cameras kind of work in conjunction with each other, because if you have more lighting, it's the same as having a camera, because it's a deterrent for the same kind of reason.
100%. But also the lighting, I would say, is much more of a permanent deterrent, because once they realize, like, man, this is the place we used to go and we could have, free reign to do whatever we want. It's gone. We've got to find somewhere new. So that's something big. We also added 60 patrol cars. I want to tell you all that's really excited. 60 patrol cars, because when having a conversation with Chief Garcia, he told me, one of my biggest hindrances is the amount of vehicles I have. It's not amount. He said, I have double elements, which is what we would call two people in a squad car. He said that I would free up and have double the amount of elements out there if I had cars to put the officers in. So that's the fastest way we could actually get more patrol on our streets than we could ever hire them, because we hire them and you got 13 months until they're actually on the street helping with patrol, right? So by purchasing 60 new cop cars and starting the pilot program to transition squad cars to an electric fleet in our city, that was something that we started with an amendment I put forward this budget cycle, and we freed up 60 elements on any given shift for Chief Garcia to be able to allocate out towards patrol. So that was also a really big initiative that we put forward. I can end it there and take questions from you all, because if not, I could talk all day.
All right, well, let's go. Thank you very much. Great stuff there. Because we ended on that, why don't we just continue on a little bit more on Chief Garcia's plan to reduce crime in our area? The 60 cars is fantastic. The hiring of more force is fantastic. Are there any other specific, items that we could kind of pin on that we feel is going to help specifically East Dallas and District 7?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm most excited about, Chief Garcia, I can't say enough positive things about him, honestly.
I'm a big fan, gotta say it, but
yeah, honestly, he's the real deal. And I say that because he understands both sides and understands that public safety is an ecosystem. He doesn't want to see all of the burden fall on officers, and he doesn't take suggestions like that personal. He says that we got to do this all together, So when one of the first conversations I had with him, he started bringing up data with a criminologist that he brought on. And any chief who's willing to listen to data from a criminologist is someone that we want leading our department. So there's a lot of similarities that you could see in Chief Hall's violent crime plan to Chief Garcia's violent crime plan. The biggest difference is the data-driven approach that we are taking with Chief Garcia, and he has 8 very minute grids that have proven to be effective in other cities, but it's also proven to be ineffective in other cities if it is targeted too wide of a range, which is what we were doing with Chief Hall. In fact, it was just over policing, which is something you want to prevent, especially in the neighborhoods that we have to be targeting, right? And so if it's over policing, it hinders the officers from doing their job, because then there becomes this wedge between the community and law enforcement. When you micro that down from data to know where it is that exists, we now have extra forces in all of those 8 grids at 24 hours a day for patrol purposes. And we have seen a substantial decrease. In fact, violent crime as a whole is down more than 6% citywide. In District 7 specifically, we're down in the 20s. And we're seeing a lot coming out of the pandemic to see where some of that violent crime may have correlated to the circumstances that existed. But we see what is happening with DPD and how they are being more effective. Plus our response times. Our response times are improving almost weekly. You don't see a week that we're not going in the right direction when it comes to response times. And a lot of that is using the resources that we have more efficiently than what they were. Chief Garcia is very adamant about making sure that that's what we are doing. He came in and said, one thing that is DPD is doing 10 things kind of half-ass. He said, I want DPD to do 5 things badass. And when he said it just like that, I said, hey, that's the best way you could have put it.
He's my guy.
Yeah,
that's the best way you could have put it. I really like that grid system. I've heard him speak on it a couple of times, and really, as you said, microcosms, fixing in on micro areas, and really using the data to drive it seems to me that it would be very effective. So really looking forward to big things from him. Hopefully he's in for the long haul. He says he is. I hope he is. And that would be something really great. The attrition, kind of that we've had in that position at such a high level has been something I think that has affected us as a city and as a community. But we've got his back, and if there's something that we can do, certainly at our level from a chamber perspective, just like for you, we're gonna be on top of that. I hear Fred Welch is here on the call. He's very involved in that. He helps us. He brings a lot of data and information to us as well. So we're following this just like you. So thank you very much on that one. Jumping into Fred, did you have something to say?
No, just glad to see crime going down.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I am too.
For what you do as well, Fred. Moving on, as chair of the Quality Life Community, tell us a little bit what you got going on there, expand on some of the goals and efforts that you have there. And certainly that is one of those things that we, again, as a chamber, feel like we can really be a part of and want to lend that hand, because the quality of life in our communities is really the reason that we're all here on this call and the reason that we all serve the communities the way we do. So hit us up.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, how thankful I am for the mayor's trust in putting chairmanship in my sophomore year, especially one that is so crucial. You know, one of who I consider a mentor is a former colleague, Lee Kleiman. And whenever we got our appointments, I talked to Lee and was like, what do you think? You know, and he says, you got the best appointment. I said, why do you say that? And he said, think about this. Every other committee that city council serves on is reactionary. He said, you get to be proactive. You get to bring up things that make changes into people's lives that aren't sparked by needing things that need to change, which is what a lot of what we do when we create policy in these other committees. So I loved that take on what this committee is. And so going in with that mindset, I tried to think, well, you know, where can we start? So I have three pieces of policy that we are in the process of introducing. I'm hoping that at least two of them come before the committee before the end of the year, but they are all in the works in city attorney's office right now. One is sexual oriented businesses and adjusting their hours of operation to match up with that of bars and clubs at 2 a.m. closing time. And it's something that has been done in many other cities. It's something that has been done as a measure to cut back on human trafficking. There's also very huge correlation when talking with Chief Garcia and that data that we've mentioned about a lot of criminal activity that takes place in these places. Tiger Cabaret is one of the places in District 7 that sits, you know, right on the service road of 30, but it's also adjacent to a lot of residential neighbors. And since I've been on council, there have been 3 homicides on their property, and it's all after 2 a.m. It's all things that don't fall on the property owners as responsibility because of the circumstances that existed. So ultimately, you know, I think all of our parents at some point have told us that nothing good happens at those times. And so it's kind of the mindset that I'm going with in wanting to kind of even out the score and say that, you know, if everyone else in our hospitality, entertainment industry and business has to shut off at 2 a.m., I think that it's a good benchmark to set that everyone else does as well. So that's one of the things that I will have actually in November. I do know that. Another piece of policy that is being worked on is correlation to census tract of moratorium on dollar stores. This was brought forward from me and several other Southern Dallas council members in wanting to see the city get serious about not allowing for the development to continue the cycles of poverty that exist in our city. We don't have enough quality grocery stores. The word food desert is almost something that is hard to use in our city because we have an influx of fast food and dollar stores where we would consider to be a food desert. So there's a term called food swamp that I prefer to use, which is exactly what it is. I taught for DISD both at Wilmer Hutchins and Skyline, and I can tell you the majority of my students came in with a bag of hot Cheetos or a honey bun, and that was their breakfast. And I don't believe that was because it was choice. It was because of what was available to them. And that's just eye-opening and something that we've got to be aggressive on in recruitment of grocery stores. And then the last of, oh, now my mind just went blank.
Quality of life.
Quality of life. Oh man, I had another good one.
I'll throw a couple at you. Personally, last night we went to the Arboretum for a concert, and I know that is a private, you know, it's a little private public, but it's private. And I was mentioning to my children that there's nothing that beautiful in almost any other city in the entire nation, much less in Texas, much less in South Texas, where I'm from, and the blessings that we have that are right in our neighborhood are just amazing. And I'll follow that up with all of the parks that we have and all the work that they've done on the parks and covering them. In my specific one, they just covered it, and all of the new equipment that they put in there. And so that's always amazing. What we would maybe not suggest, but one thing to always keep in mind as far as we do as a chamber is keeping those HOAs involved in the process of quality of life communities. HOAs tend to, you tend to get the creme de la creme of the homeowners in those HOH, or those at least that are going to be involved like we are as a community and we are as a chamber to try to get that backing and support. Of course, there's always going to be the naysayers and there's always going to be next door, but we can focus on the positives and the positive that can come from those communities and from that involvement, and really try to negate all of the negative and the banter that might come from it, just focusing on positive there. One last piece on that, the old Fiesta Market on Ferguson. Any news, thoughts on that?
Yes, I would say there's no new news necessarily. There is still movement. I mean, we are working diligently. Economic development's ready to pull the trigger once I get something secured. I don't really even like to say that to put all the burden on me, because it's a more daunting task than you would imagine to recruit grocery stores. And it also seems somewhat redundant. They sit down in the office and they find out where I'm representing, and it's about over. So I am working. We are willing and ready to put in money to invest in that. We have a deal coming forward next week that is with Kroger. I met with them yesterday and had a very good but very stern conversation that since being on council, this will be the second abatement deal that we will be approving for Kroger, and neither one of them brought a grocery store to an area that needs it. And I just made it very clear that this is basically the last time that I want to be on this side of this conversation, and that my colleagues will all agree. And so we talked specifically about this site with them. I didn't, of course, get any commitment in it, in just a conversation, but we will continue to actively recruit. We're going to be looking at, and if y'all will pay attention to what is happening with this, it's Hall Street in Flora that this is coming up. And the deal is actually a good deal. It was sold originally from staff to address food deserts. It's really not. It's more of a housing deal than anything. And it's bringing in a great affordability component. So what it is hopefully going to be a model that's the economic development department can use in recruiting, so that we can do something mixed use, which is really my hope for that pad where Fiesta is. It's just too large of a parcel of land to try to utilize it in what it was built for. It needs to be completely redone. We need to have housing, multi-level housing above it. And we need to use it as an opportunity, not only to bring in affordability, not only to bring in a grocery store, but also to help change the narrative that exists and the stigma around multifamily, because I believe that we're missing out on a lot of opportunity to increase density in areas and bring in development, not only to our tax base, but also to bring up that demand so that we can have retail and grocery stores. So it's kind of tenfold, and I'm trying to utilize this as a project that can be kind of a catalyst to breaking that stigma with the surrounding neighbors.
Well, fingers crossed on that one. The multi-use, again, I'm just giving you my opinion, is always a great idea. I think that it really is a transformative effort that will change the area. It has a lot of potential for it, but going back to next door, you get so many people that are just so anti, and kudos to you for the work that you do and for being there for a second term, because it just boggles me to see how intense some folks can be against something that in the long term really would be a positive economic booster for the area. But you know, I guess everybody's entitled to their opinion on that. I love Food Swamp. That was good. I hadn't heard that, and that's good. Again, personally, I just feel like that is one of our biggest challenges, is the fact that folks are able and have access, you know, to such terrible junk food all the time, and you see it, you know, in our schools, and you see it in our high schools, and it's rather sad. And so those food swamps are really going to be a challenge for us, I think, as a society in the whole moving forward. So you got a lot on your plate there.
Yes,
good,
for sure.
good luck. Let's see. How do you feel about the new city council maps?
So we haven't gotten any local level maps yet. We just were briefed on the census data that is going to be used for the commission. What we're doing this year is a little bit different than what happened 10 years ago, in that we've appointed a commission. The commission is going to do the work over the next several months. We are slated to get something brought to council around April or May. Once we see, you know, any preliminary maps and start being able to have our own conversations at council level. But once things are presented to us, we have the ability to deviate the proposed maps up to 10%. So we'll know something pretty close. Now, I will say that with who we have in there, in this commission, it's all people who know what they're doing, who have been a part of the process one way or the other in the past. And I think that what we can expect is for this to not be what we've seen come out of Austin. The lines that exist now are drawn pretty equitably. What we have to do is just fluctuate those lines, or move those lines so that we go with where the population has fluctuated, and even them out back to the threshold of population we're trying to hit as an average. It shouldn't mean that we're going to have this crazy gerrymandering that we've seen even in the past at local levels, because it's become a fight from the governing body who is looking to be reelected. Right now, we have this all being handled from an unbiased body that is appointed by us, but we aren't allowed to talk to them now that they've got their work started, and they're given the tasks. So I will say that there are some big changes on both state House, state Senate, and our congressional lines that were drawn, and that we see as quote unquote final maps in Austin. I'll believe that, you know, once a judge says that. But we've got some big changes, I think, to Far East Dallas, to Old East Dallas, to Southeast Dallas. We're looking at some swaps. You know, I grew up with EBJ as my congresswoman for my entire life.
Yeah,
and I'm about to be lined in Congressional District 32 instead. So interesting changes that are taking place, and it's all been a very interesting process to watch down in Austin.
Yeah. All right, shifting gears a little bit. I can't imagine you don't get this question every single time, but talk to us a little bit about what Mayor Johnson's saying and potentially trying to do with building permits and making permitting a little bit easier to navigate. And
I've never gotten that question before, actually.
Right? Is it yeah.
No, you know, Mayor Johnson has an agenda this term that was really easy to cling on to for all of us, which is really getting back to the basics and making sure that, you know, before we get too innovative, before we start investing too much outside, that we focus on the things that matter. We can't promote economic development if developers can't get through the process in time for dirt to turn over. And so we have a lot of structural changes, a lot of personnel changes that have already taken place. I do not have specifics just yet, because we are yet to be briefed on the overall, and they still are ironing out some of those changes. But I know that that zoning is now going to be in with planning urban design, which is a big change that everyone seems to really be excited about. And I know that there are some internal changes within that department. There are talks right now about a physical move of what occurs down at Jefferson to be closer to City Hall. And that there's been ideas floated out around taking one of the floors of the Central Library for that. And so we're looking at a bunch of different suggestions, kind of ironing out what's going to make the most sense. The fact is that where we've gotten with what exists, the system that exists, didn't happen overnight. And so we can't take the approach that we're going to be able to fix it overnight. We're trying to make the changes that are made something that can be long lasting and hopefully a legacy that Mayor Johnson can tout from his tenure.
And that would be nice.
Yes, it would.
If it would be something that he could change and say that it was part of a legacy that would help us, move forward in that the development side. So much development going on in so many different places, and the permit process actually bogging that down a little. To me is a little mind blowing because we're all trying to get to a place, yet our own hindrances seem to be in the way sometimes. I hadn't heard, but I like the idea of maybe moving it to City Hall. There's probably plenty of space down there. It's a huge building.
Yes.
Parking's pretty easy. Maybe that would help the departments kind of talk to each other a little bit more and have a little bit more of a flow. But hey, we can all wish and we can all hope. So I would certainly stand behind something like that.
Yes, I will say that this is an issue that I get calls often, and they're like, "Well, I don't know what's going on." And for any of you who have experienced it or have partners or clients that have experienced the headache that exists, I do want you, and this hopefully gives you some kind of good feeling that it's not happening. This is a consistent issue across the city with everyone. This is something that we've got to streamline for a system as a whole. I don't see anybody that is able. I get calls all the time, and there's a lot of things that we as council people can expedite or can really advocate on your behalf. This is just one of those things that we can't. When I'm called and they're asked, like, I can't get faster through that process than what you can, or what I have a lot of other constituents or stakeholders that are as well. So I hope that you understand that this problem that exists is something that has to be existed systemically, and that's what we're working towards.
Yeah. Get in line. All right. I had another good one here. Any insights into current and future economic development projects in your area? We talked about Fiesta, but is there anything else that we need to be kind of on the lookout for, and something that we can help with? We're always trying to reach out to those new businesses in our areas so that we can try to serve them better by having them be part of our active community in turn, which means we're going to send them the business that they're trying to look for, especially as startups.
Well, we do have the revitalization at John West and Buckner. The shopping center there, we're at the old Gaston Bazaar. That is going to be a full service El Rio Grande supermarket. And they've got a letter of intent for one of the tenants to be a full service restaurant that's going to be in what used to be a car stereo and tent location. The entire pad's being redone, landscaped, and really excited about that. I think that's going to be a good boost. In addition to that, we've got some good things happening with at Jim Miller and Samuel. There's a shopping center that needs a lot of work, and we have a new property owner who's been working with the tenants, providing funding and resources to kind of revamp. They've kind of given everything a little bit of a facelift, if you will, within there. And he's hoping to consolidate more so that there is opportunity to bring in some businesses that he has kind of on the brink. at Samuel Boulevard between Honeycutt and Ferguson at the old Timberlawn Hospital site. There is a deal that we just passed zoning for last week, which is one half of the huge land that is vacant there. The other half is currently being developed for a subdivision. And between those two subdivisions, we'll have more than 500 new single family homes, which is great for the already zoned retail Samuel Boulevard along the corridor of Southeast Dallas, right south of 30. So really excited to see what that's going to bring. The development that's coming here at Timberlawn, there was an agreement that I made with the developer to donate 3.5 acres of the land that they've purchased. And that is going to be a park that they're constructing and donating back to the city. So we'll have another green space put in over there as well, which I also think is always helpful for development. We are about to, y'all will be the first ones to hear this, but we're about to announce that we have another land donation. It's actually the largest land donation in more than 40 years to the city of Dallas, and Parkdale Lake over off of Syene is going to be donated to us. The Conservancy is on board as a part of the project. We have renderings of really exciting development of this area. There's going to be walk path around it, and there's nothing but developable land around it. And so the Parks Department specifically thinks that this is going to be a huge economic driver. Anytime we've had a park of this size and magnitude, we've seen development and retail and opportunity for businesses to come in the surrounding areas. So that's something they're very excited about when it comes to economic development. And then of course, Fair Parks Master Plan. With George W. Bush and Laura Bush as our campaign, our capital campaign chairs, they have really, it's been a game changer. I mean, the 7-figure donations have been coming in faster than what I would have ever thought. I think the goal will be met a good year in advance of getting in that community park. We plan on seeing this summer the parking deck being broke, the ground being broke for that, which is a multi-level parking deck, and we're taking away over 1,300 parking spaces of flat land within the Fair Park grounds. So I'm super excited to see that not only the work that's going to happen within the 277 acres, but it's just going to, just as we said with Parkdale Lake, be a huge catalyst. I've already had somebody wanting to bring in a 33-story hotel at one of the edges of Fair Park. I don't think it's a really good fit for the neighborhood where they want to bring it in, but to know that demand is there because of the excitement that is occurring is very promising.
I love that obviously you're going to have to be very involved in Fair Park. That is a jewel to us.
Yes.
And, the direction that we can take there, and having the bushes available for that, and having Spectra available for that, and all of, just the ability that exists there for us in that corridor is just going to be amazing. And I personally, as a realtor for 20 years, see that piece of South Dallas as just so beneficial and so able for so many, potentials and awesome things that, I hope that in my lifetime we see some major change there. I think that geographically it probably is one of the better situated spaces for us to really utilize. There's a lot of families there that might unfortunately be displaced, but at the same time we are running out of areas for good real estate construction and moving into areas that are still close to downtown that are going to be affordable. And I think that right there is an absolute gem. So I wish you much luck and success with that. I personally would be happy to help in any way with that. As a Chamber of Commerce, certainly we are available to help in those means as well. And that'll get us into our last question here. What can we do to support you in your efforts and projects, all of these great things that you've shared with us today. Again, thank you for your time, but we do want this to be constructive in the sense that you know that we are on your radar and you are on ours, and working together is what's going to help build this community and build what we are all trying to accomplish, which is, you know, a greater Dallas and a greater East Dallas, and not only affordability, but availability of food and commercial and, you know, mixed use spaces and our beloved Fair Park. What can we do for you? How can we help?
Well, I'll again thank you all for being here, you know, and inviting me with this platform, because I think the first step is to keep a line of communication open. You know, instead of starting from scratch every time we talk, if you all know what's going on in the area, I think it serves as an easier starting point to figure out where you all can assist. There's going to be zoning cases, you know, there's going to be certain economic incentive cases. There's going to be things that there may be mixed opinions on, just as you've mentioned, where I try my hardest to stay away from. But next door, you know, we have the need for partnership and collaboration when it comes to you all to show kind of a more business sense approach to the feedback that we get. It doesn't have to always be a black or white type of neighborhood fight, but it is nice to see the stakeholders such as yourselves weigh in when it comes to certain projects that are coming in, because your name alone has, you know, credibility. So I think that this is where it starts. If we were to increase the amount of times that we had these conversations to not just, you know, once a year, but maybe quarterly even, so that you all know what's going on, and then build that rapport with each other, so that maybe something specific does come up and I can call up Fred and say, this is somewhere I know you can help. And
let me tell you, you can always call Fred and he's always available for help. I don't know how the guy does it, but man, he's out there.
Well, and so, I mean, I don't want it to sound too, you know, vague, but I really do believe that this right here is the best kind of place to start in opening up that dialogue and knowing where there are strengths within your organization, to know how I can lean on you, but also at the same time for you all to know what is going on around and what things may strike y'all's interest to be more a part of. So that's where we can continue this conversation as well.
Well, together with my chair, Jonathan Freddy, who unfortunately was not able to be with us today because he had a surgery, we will continue to bring up these sorts of ideas and thoughts and challenges, and make sure that we try to bring you in whenever we hear of something, and we'd like that, you know, to be vice versa as well. If you have any closing statements, I think we've done a pretty good job here, man.
Yeah, I think that we're
almost all of my questions. The other ones to me
covered
didn't
them
make
all,
that
didn't
much
we?
sense anyway.
Yeah, I think we covered them all. I will say the smart streets. You asked about
Yeah,
smart streets.
I was going to say, let me ask you. I don't know about smart streets, so at least enlighten me enough to tell me what that is.
So I asked for a description, and they said that it's a combination of poles, conduit, ground boxes, and associated electrical infrastructure for the installation of communication equipment at these projects. So I think that, like you mentioned, there being cameras, we don't have the ability for that to be on every street, but I know that we have some lights that are equipped with solar, LED lighting, and cameras. Some will be equipped with call boxes. If you remember, like on college campuses, there's the little emergency call boxes. That's something that I've been pushing hard for our trail system that's coming in all through East Dallas, because it's just too remote in certain places. And so that is a part of it. Well, District 7 has currently implemented 2 of the smart streets. One is on Fraser, or at Fraser Revitalization from Spring to Marshall. And the other one is over here in by the Skyline Branch Library on Symphony from Everglade to Snowbird. So you'll probably, if you go by and look at either one of those, you'll see that we've got 2 or 3 coming up in just about every district to start with. They look different lights. They are actually from the ground. Like they stand about 7 or 8 feet tall. They're not as big as the other ones. And they're really pretty. And so that's where we're working towards when it comes to the Smart Street initiatives.
Well, I'm glad that we got through all the questions now. I was going to leave that one out, and I'm like, why am I leaving that out? I should actually ask that for sure, because I don't know what they are. So I too wanted to do a little bit of research on that, and I will get to that. But thank you for touching on that as well. Again, your time is valuable, and we're very grateful that you've taken on this role as a councilman here in the district that we touch and that we are a part of. Congratulations on your second term. Keep fighting for us and keep letting us know if there's anything that we can do, and we will do absolutely the same. Any specific other questions from the audience here? Probably
no. I would just say thank you, and likewise, don't hesitate. I don't have to be smack dab in the middle of y'all's service area for y'all to feel that I'm a representative you can call on. So you have a friend at City Hall. And lean on me just as you hope that I will lean on you.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic statement, and we'll do exactly that. Again, thank you everybody who's attended this morning. We'll look forward to seeing you at our next meetings. And Mr. Bazaldua, we will be following you, and always here to serve a hand.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a great weekend.
You have a great weekend as well. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the weather.
Thank you.